We all know the story of World War I, the battles, the generals, and the soldiers. But there's a side to the war that gets overlooked, a side that's rarely talked about: the women. These women didn't just support the war, they helped win it. Yet, for over a century, their contributions have been forgotten. Today, we're uncovering the hidden role women played in World War I. When the war started, most men went to the front lines. That left a huge gap in the workforce. Who filled that gap? Women. They stepped into factories, took on jobs they'd never been allowed to do before, and kept the war machine going. In Britain, women worked in munitions factories, producing the weapons, ammunition, and supplies that kept the armies fighting. They worked long hours in dangerous conditions, with little protection from the chemicals that often poisoned them. Yet these women, known as the munitionettes, were responsible for making the bullets and bombs that could change the tide of the war. Without them, the war effort could have ground to a halt. But that's not where their story ends. Women also played a vital role as nurses. Over 200,000 women served in hospitals, treating soldiers who were injured on the front lines. It wasn't just about bandages and medicine. Women were literally saving lives every single day. And it wasn't just the nurses in the hospitals who made a difference. Many women joined organizations like the Red Cross, and some even went directly to the front lines. They were there, in the thick of it all, caring for the wounded, comforting the dying, and helping soldiers recover. It was hard, dangerous work, especially when you consider the lack of resources and medical supplies. One woman who stands out is Edith Cavell, a British nurse who helped 200 Allied soldiers escape from German-occupied Belgium. She was caught, tried, and executed by the Germans. Her courage became a symbol of the sacrifice women made during the war. While most of the world was focused on soldiers fighting on the front lines, women were quietly working behind enemy lines, gathering intelligence, and risking their lives as spies. Take Mata Hari, for example, the famous exotic dancer turned spy. Mata Hari worked for the Germans, but she wasn't the only one. Women were used by both sides to spy, gather intel, and sabotage military operations. Many of these women operated in the shadows, collecting information that helped turn the tide of battles. They were clever, resourceful, and willing to do whatever it took to help their countries win. Women didn't just stay in the shadows, either. Some women disguised themselves as men and fought alongside soldiers. They served in combat, risking their lives in the trenches. These women didn't just stay behind the scenes, they were out there, in the middle of it all, showing incredible bravery. But the impact of women during World War I wasn't just felt on the front lines or in the factories. The war also sparked a change in society. Women were proving themselves capable of doing the jobs men had always done. They weren't just helping with the war effort, they were showing the world they could contribute to society in ways no one had imagined before. In Britain, this led to a huge social change. In 1918, the Representation of the People Act was passed, giving women over the age of 30 the right to vote. The suffragist movement had been fighting for this for decades, but it was the women who had worked so tirelessly during the war that finally convinced the government to listen. It wasn't just about voting rights, it was about recognizing women's contributions to society. For years, the contributions of women in World War I were overlooked. They were seen as helpers, but not as the true heroes they were. It wasn't until much later that historians started to realize just how essential these women were to the war effort. Without them, the war might have turned out very differently. It's hard to imagine now, but many women were actually sent home after the war ended, their work forgotten by the public. Men returned home to their jobs, and the women who had kept the country running were pushed back into domestic roles. But history has a funny way of revealing the truth, and the role women played in World War I can no longer be ignored. The next time you think about World War I, don't just remember the soldiers. Remember the women, too. The ones who worked in factories, who nursed the wounded, who spied behind enemy lines, and who fought for change in their societies. These women didn't just support the war, they helped win it. Their contributions might have been hidden for years, but today we can finally tell their story.